The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Harrogate again, everybody. Now, I'm beginning this episode on a little green right in the centre of this village. And not only is this in the centre of the village, this could also be, depending on which metric you choose to believe, the actual dead centre of Yorkshire. That's an interesting fact, isn't it? Or is it? We'll soon find out as we journey around Cattal. Cattal, Wildcat's Nook. For your Wednesday episode this week, we're in Cattal, about 6 miles east of Knaresborough and located on the River Nid. Despite being a small village, Cattal's history is pretty interesting. For a start, you only have to look at the name. Cattal is first mentioned in the Domesday Book as Cattal or Catala. The title derives from the Old English cat and hal, which, when put together, means a nook of land associated with wild cats. The nook is a bend in the Nid, and here you can cross it. Formerly a part of Huntingdon Parish, Cattal flies solo today. It lies on the route of a Roman road called Rudgate, which runs north towards the much larger village of Wixley. We'll see that on Friday. On the route of that road is a railway station, a rather unusual landmark for such a small village. Aside from the station, the river and the bridge that crosses the latter, Cattal doesn't have a lot of landmarks. However, it should be noted that sometimes appearances are deceptive. If you were to head down Chapel Street, the dead end off the main road through the place, you'd discover not just an old chapel with a history to tell, but a burgeoning business that now occupies the building. Let's just say it might well interest the petrol heads among you. So come with me through the village and let's learn a bit about a place which was once linked with wild cats. None will come at you these days, so don't worry, you don't need a stash of cat treats as you go. Let's get walking. After parking on Oxmoor Lane at the western end of the village, we begin our walk with an amble down to the bridge over the River Nid. This is Cattal Bridge, a Grade 2 listed structure which carries the road to Tadcaster over the fast-flowing waters below. A road has crossed the river here since at least Roman times. It was called Rudgate and connected Tadcaster to Oldborough. It's not known for sure whether or not the Romans would have used a bridge or a ford to get over the Nid, but a ford was definitely in use during the medieval period. It was first recorded during the reign of Henry III. Later, a timber bridge was in existence by the mid-16th century when it was recorded by John Leyland. The current bridge was built at the end of the 18th century when embankments were constructed on the river. This meant diverting the Roman road 150 metres upstream from its original line, so theoretically we're not actually on Rudgate right here. Although its north arch and parapets have been extensively repaired since the 18th century, the bridge itself has never been strengthened and so retains its original features better than most other structures of a similar date. Let's head into the village now. Due to Cattal's proximity to the Nid, it has a recent history of flooding during extreme weather. This occurred most recently in 2012, with houses located near the banks of the river put on alert by the Environment Agency. One man had to be rescued from his car near Cattal Bridge after the floodwaters reached 4 feet in depth. 2 donkeys were also rescued from a field after becoming stranded. Okay, so now we're approaching the centre of the village, which is marked by the green that you saw in the intro. And that green is also a claim to fame for Cattal, I suppose, because that green also claims to be the centre of Yorkshire. Now we're at the centre of the village on a small green. To the north, the road before you here follows Rudgate. The original line of the road approached the Nid from the south in a dead straight line which was abandoned when the bridge was built. Rudgate continues north to Wixley, after which it meets the York to Aldborough Road. Fun fact, Rudgate has a brewery named after it in nearby Topwith. Now, not only are we at the centre of the village here, we could be at the geographical centre of Yorkshire. In recent times, an argument has arisen between certain villages in Yorkshire over who should rightfully hold that title. Most recently, in 2012, Hesse claimed that honour after being awarded it by Ordnance Survey. However, a similar computer programme used 4 years previous selected Cattal as the geographical centre instead. Now, of course, if you've been following me for a while, you'll already know about Barkston Ash too. For several centuries, the Selby district village has had a tree which has marked the centre of Yorkshire. Now, personally, I'm with Barkston Ash here, but the whole thing is open to interpretation. There's a lot of properties down here that make reference to Axholme. I wonder if they've got anything to do with the Isle of Axholme, which we saw in North Lincolnshire. Behind us there, that's Axholme Farms. That's one of them, isn't it? Now, if you continue walking down this road, you'll eventually hit a dead end. If I just show you where this goes, you can see the road comes to an abrupt stop there. I do believe there is a track. I don't think it's an official footpath, but I think there's a track you can follow right at the very end that runs off into the fields. However, even though there appears to be nothing down there, there actually is something down there of note. And if you're a petrol head, you will definitely be interested in this next section. At the end of Chapel Street is the building that gives this cul-de-sac its name. This is Horbutt House, which has an attached former chapel. The house was built first in the early 19th century. The chapel, which was for the Methodists, came later in around 1892. Within the footprint of the property is Horbutt Barn, and that's the base of a company which car enthusiasts out there may well like. Horbutt Barn is an Airbnb, and that's important for anyone who might want to hire a car from here. The accommodation is offered to anyone who wishes to take advantage of the car hire and stay package offered by Morgan Three-Wheeler Hire, North Yorkshire. The Morgan Three-Wheeler is a roadster produced by the British car manufacturer of the same name, Morgan, from 2012 to 2021. It can't be defined as a car, at least not in the traditional sense. It is, in essence, a variation of a motorcycle. It was first unveiled at the 2011 Geneva Motor Show. Morgan took some 850 initial orders after that show, and you can hire one of them yourself right here. The three-wheeler was initially said to have a Harley-Davidson Screaming Eagle V-twin engine and a Mazda 5-speed manual transmission, estimated to deliver 115 brake horsepower at the rear wheel. However, that wasn't the case when it came to production. Instead, the cars had S&S engines. The acceleration from 0 to 60 was estimated by Morgan as 4.5 seconds, with a top speed of 115 miles an hour. The contraption featured in an episode of the UK motoring show Top Gear during Series 18. Morgan three-wheelers have been around a lot longer than 2011 though. The first car of the company's founder, Henry Morgan, was a three-wheeler. Henry worked for the Great Western Railway but quit in 1904 to set up his motor sales and servicing garage in Malvern Link. He designed and built a three-wheeler single-seat runabout for his own use in 1908, the three wheels meaning that he avoided the tax on cars in force at that time as it was classed as a motorcycle. The engine was a 7-horsepower Peugeot twin-cylinder from an abandoned motorcycle project. The suspension was a bespoke coil spring independent design, and a drive shaft ran through the backbone tube to a 2-speed transmission to drive the rear wheel. The backbone chassis is an idea that was retained for all subsequent Morgan three-wheelers until they were phased out in 1952. That's when Morgan decided to focus on making more traditional, 4-wheeled cars. To this day though, the Morgan three-wheeler remains the only car to have ever appeared in the window at the London department store, Harrods. It wasn't until 2011 that Morgan announced that they would be building three-wheelers again, along very similar lines to the original cars from nearly 100 years ago. However, in 2020 they announced that they would be ending production of the three-wheeler in its current format when the final production run of 33 special edition models was completed. All of those cars promptly sold out, so at present Morgan has no more cars to sell, and it's probably never going to make any more. The one you can hire here in Cattal then is one of the last in existence today. Well, there you go, a bit about the Morgan three-wheeler there. I've never driven one myself, and to be honest with you, I don't really think I want to be honest, because even though they look like cars and they operate like motorcycles, I don't think I'd fancy it. I much prefer something that's a bit more traditional car, shall we say. And anyway, I don't think in this weather anyone would want to be riding around in one of them, to be honest with you. Right, we're going to make our way back down the road from whence we came and move on to the railway station, which is to the north of the village. This is Cattal railway station, a ways north of the village along Rugate. We're familiar with the line this is on. It's the Harrogate line, which runs between Leeds and York. It's owned by Network Rail and managed by Northern Trains. Cattal is at the western end of a dual track section from Hamerton. Now, visiting Cattal is like a step back in time. The level crossing, which is still manually operated, has metal gates. There's also a ground level signal box here. Apart from the signaller, the station is unstaffed. Nearby is the village's one and only pub, the Victoria. Now, as we discussed earlier, Cattal has a claim to be the village at the centre of Yorkshire. The Victoria uses that somewhat disputable fact to its advantage, because it claims, as a result, to be the most central pub in Yorkshire. Even if that claim isn't true, the Victoria has another claim to fame, and that's all down to its landlord, Steve Balcombe. Fans of Leeds United will know the man as Super Steve Balcombe. Albeit a short-lived hero of Ellen Road, he was a goal machine and a record-holding striker. Pictures on the walls and a video on the pub's website immortalise Steve's moment of glory. A stunning strike for Leeds United against Aston Villa in a 1-1 draw in 1981, back when Villa were champions of England and Steve was a talented young striker. That turned out to be his only league appearance for Leeds, giving him a goal-a-game record. He suffered an injury soon after that match and Leeds were relegated at the end of the season. Steve moved into the pub trade, first in Ireland, then at the Three Cups in Stamford Bridge, the Duke of Wellington at East Keswick, the Crown at Great Ousburn, and now the Victoria, where he's been since 2004. And in a nutshell, that's Cattal. But we're not quite finished with Cattal just yet, and there's a reason for that, and we'll find out the answer to it in tomorrow's episode, because now I've got to turn the car around and go back along this road to get to the next one, where we'll find the site of Little Cattal? Time to drive onwards to the next one. It's worth noting that in early 2019, Oakgate Homes submitted an application to Harrogate Borough Council to build a new village just north of Cattal, clustered around the railway station. The 4,000 home village would include 2 primary schools and a doctor's surgery, and would be named Maltkiln. The proposals would also see some work be undertaken to improve the A59, removing the crossroads in favour of a roundabout. So far, nothing has happened, but who knows, if plans go ahead, we could be back here soon to see what they've done. Tomorrow though, we're off to a place which is just a mere speck on the landscape, a far cry from anything Maltkiln might offer. See you there. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.